In this tutorial, we'll be extracting audio from an audio CD and using it in our sequence, using Digital Performer's beat detection engine to help us extract a phrase, taking that phrase and matching it to the sequence tempo, editing it using crossfades, and using the beat detection engine to help extract individual beats to create a fill. So, what we have here is a sequence that already has a drum phrase. The tempo's been matched to the drum phrase, so it's played back in time. Let's hear it. Okay, I have a CD already in the machine, so I'm going to open that disk and choose a file. And for Digital Performer, it's as simple as dragging a file from the CD into the tracks window or into the Soundbites window. I'll drag it into the Soundbites window. Okay, our audio file has been imported. It's down here. I'm going to create two tracks to work with this. One which will contain the entire track, and in the other track I'll be able to paste in edits that I make. So I'll go up to Project, Add Track, Stereo Audio Track, and rename them. Maybe color code them so they're easier to see. And I'm actually going to disable this edit track. I'm just going to use this as sort of a clipboard. So I'll take my file, paste it up here. There's that notch, which means that Digital Performer detected a strong transient and put a edit point there, a sync point, I should say. Let's look at this in the sequence editor. For this kind of editing, that may work better. So there's our complete track. Let's hear a little bit of this before we go on. Go back to the tracks window and I'll just play what I added. Okay, I think I'm going to want to edit from where I just stopped. I'll probably use a phrase from there. Okay, going back to the sequence window. And I see that there's these little blue lines. That's where DP detected transients and thinks the beats are. So if I want to cut a section, I can actually set this box here. Snap to beat, that means my cursor will go from transient to transient. Let's try that. There, it's snapping transient to transient. Now, it would be great if I could preview the section I highlighted and have it repeat and see if it would make a good loop. So I can do that if I choose the memory repeat, and I also choose link selection to memory. Now, whatever I highlight, it will automatically put a repeat cycle. So if I were to highlight from here to here, notice that it made a repeat cycle, and if I click the play bar in here and press play, we should hear it repeat. Sorry, let's redo my playback. Okay, so Digital Performer did a pretty good job of detecting where the beginning of each beat is. So I'm going to expand this out a little bit so I can catch the section that I want. See how this sounds. Okay, I think I want this possibly to there. Just experiment until I found a section. I think I want to this point, so I'm going to add to my selection all the way to there. Okay, that's looping pretty nicely. Okay, back to the tracks window. So there's my little phrase. I can choose to copy. And I'll paste it in the track that I'm going to use for that phrase. So I'll just highlight. It'll click to the beginning of the measure, choose paste, and that's what I had just copied. This is a new soundbite. We see it appear here. It's referencing the same parent audio file, but it has a new name. I'm going to rename it down here too. So hold the Option key. Something like that. Now when I look at it in the sequence window, that soundbite will have a recognizable name. There it is. So whenever I see it and want to move it around, I can look for its name here. Okay, the next thing I need to do is tell Digital Performer what I think the number of beats is in this soundbite, so it can deduce the tempo, and then I can match the tempo to the sequence tempo. Let's hear it first against the metronome and see if it's anywhere near the tempo. Turn off my memory, repeat, play back just that, go back a little ways, metronome on. Not quite fitting the metronome. Okay, let's see how many beats it sounds like it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it sounds like it's 4 beats to me. So I'll highlight this soundbite, audio, soundbite tempo, set soundbite tempo, and I'll choose 4 beats. It made a pretty good guess for me. Now I can say set this soundbite to sequence tempo and it will adjust to fit in exactly 1 measure. Let's try that. Audio. Adjust soundbite to sequence tempo. It makes the switch. Notice it made a new audio file. Let's see what's going on in our audio files folder for this project. Here it is. Here's our audio files folder. So we have the track, the complete track I extracted. Here's that change tempo of that very short section of the track. Now let's hear that with the metronome. It should all line up. Metronome on. Okay, and it's a pretty extreme tempo change, so it's creating some little artifacts in there. So let's say I wanted to slow it down instead of speed it up. I'll undo that, highlight it, do the set soundbite tempo, but this time I'll say it's 8 beats long. And do the same thing, make sure it's still highlighted. Audio, just soundbite to sequence tempo. Now it's slower. That might fit the style of what I'm doing better. Let's see. Maybe, maybe not. Let's see what it sounds like with the other part. So we've just matched the tempo. I think I like the faster version, so I'm going to undo that real quick. I think this fits the drum part a little better. Okay, now I'll go ahead and repeat this a little bit. It's possible that there is some pops and clicks between the phrases, although it sounds pretty clean. So it might be nice to add some crossfades. Let's go back to sequence so we can see the seams here. I'm going to hide the tracks we don't need to see. We don't need to see those two. Okay, zoom out. Okay, so I think I'd like to apply crossfades here just to be safe. So there's 2 ways we could do this. I could actually highlight a section, choose audio, fade. And the window, much like Pro Tools, equal gain, equal power fades. Depending on the volume and content of what you're doing, equal power will probably work. This menu is really important. It says either fade selected time ranges or create fixed length fade. If you leave it on selected time ranges, it'll actually make a fade that's this length. If you choose create fixed length fade, then you can determine the amount of time. So if you know you only want a couple milliseconds before and after. So what I'm going to do is create fades over a bunch of these. So I'm going to highlight a whole section. And now it will want to do the create fixed length fade because I've selected such a large section. So I go to audio fade, and I'll make it really fast fade. This is just to make sure there's no pops or clicks. Press OK, and now we see there's little crossfades in there. We zoom in, we can see there's the fade. We can actually change the way the fade, how much it covers by dragging. I'll undo that. And if we go to our project folder, we should now see fades. Here's new audio files that represent the fades. Okay. So it sounded okay before, but now for sure it's going to be smooth. Okay, and together. Now, if you remember from the previous tutorial, I used a complete audio file, like a whole file soundbite for this drum loop. What if I tried to do some crossfading up there? Well, let's see what happens. Here's the spot where there's a seam. Maybe I'll select this section right here and choose fade. And I'll use this time ranges. Okay. So basically what it's going to do here is actually just fade out and fade in since there's no audio. Okay, so that's a spot that it will have trouble calculating a crossfade, but it still attempts to, so it'll do a quick fade out and fade in. I'll undo that. Now the last thing I was going to use the transient detection or beat detection engine to create a little fill on this percussion part. So let's go back to the sequence editor, zoom out a little bit, and I can see all my transients here. I'm going to cut off this for a moment. And let's say I wanted to use just this sound here. Let's put our memory, repeat, and link selection to memory. Highlight this, press repeat, see what we get. Turn this off. Okay, so I could use that for a little fill, or maybe all the way to there. That'd be kind of cool, little over the bar line type fill. How about just this? I'll make it easy. I'll just use this little piece. So I'll choose copy and kind of just paste it wherever for now. There it is. Now I'll lock this one to the grid. I'll change its value to a smaller value. Now I should be able to snap it. But since I didn't paste it to the grid, it's a little bit off. I can tell that by this number here. This tells me exactly where this soundbite is located, where it begins. Notice this one begins on bar 6. This one's kind of in the middle of a bar, so I can actually force it to be on the beat just by giving it a new locator. Now it's exactly on the beat. So once I've done that, it'll click to the beat. So now I can just paste it, hold down my option key, drag it, do some crazy business with it. Maybe put it over here too, and over here. And let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so I created a little fill out of that. Let's hear the tracks together with our little fill added. So I've used a lot of different editing processes and tempo changing to match these two tracks up and start to develop them by creating a fill at the end of the phrase.